Everybody in the country, in the world, knew what happened on 9/11. They knew what they were doing that day, that moment on 9/11.
There's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
And I was in high school at the time, thinking about what my path was looking like.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
But when that second tower fell, I knew it was my mission to go do something bigger than myself.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
And so I left school that day, and I went to the recruiter station and said, hey, I want to do it. I want to join the service to go honor those that we just lost and to go fight for our country overseas. On my first combat deployment to Iraq in 2005, my team was struck by an IED, the most violent, powerful action we've ever felt in our lives. I've seen firsthand how traumatic experiences can change your life forever. The road to healing is a long journey, and no one can do it alone. After 9/11, there was this huge support for the fire services, for the police, because obviously what they did. I mean, charging up a building knowing that there's a good potential it's coming down, and just taking one step in front of the other forward. That's heroism. I mean, can you really raise your hand and say, I'll do that? But then after a point in time, people lost sight of that. We went to war. Our veterans, our military deployed overseas, and we started fighting the good fight. But we've lost sight of the fact that firefighters and police are heroes. And the fact is, when we're military going overseas, you know, we fight for a period of time, we come home, we reboot. Firefighters and police, they continually do the job year-round. They see horrific stuff every third day, every second day, whatever their schedule is, continually throughout their entire career. In the special operations community, we fight really hard, but we get to come home and dial it down a little bit. These guys are in every single day. They get to go home for a short period of time, and then they go back into the fight. And so we need to take a good step back and look at these guys and girls are heroes. First responders just do not get enough credit for the job that they do. Now we're here 15 years later after that horrific incident that happened. And I'm getting ready to go to New York for my first time to see this. And you know, I'm nervous because it's just, there's so much, I've heard so much about it, you know, and we all memorialize it, but when we take a good step at it, I've heard nothing but chilling stories about just being there, knowing what had happened. You know, it's just going out there to honor those that we lost, and that's an emotional thing. Going to New York, we got incredible treatment from the FDNY. They laid out all the red carpet. That's primarily due to John Walters, a Rescue 1, Liam Flaherty, a Rescue 2, and Jeff Cool, Rescue 3. They know how important it is for military and first responders to be one team. I saw a whole new level of brotherhood from a different community. It just shows you the pride we all have in America. New York is really built on their heritage, especially in the fire service. And they displayed a lot of that to us on our trip. They have that thread, that common theme of, you know, brotherhood, the history, and they stand true to it.
Well, the names up top there, those are the guys that died on 9/11 that worked here. So you'll see some of them, like Captain Patrick Brown, for instance, on the bottom, Battalion Chief Edward Garrity. Those guys worked here, but they weren't actually working here on 9/11, but they worked in this station previously.
Every time we went to a firehouse in New York, the first thing they would show us was the memorial on the wall. We didn't go to one firehouse that there wasn't a memorial, and there were a lot of names on each one of them. But that's what they wanted to do, is take us right to that wall to honor their brothers and sisters they lost that day. They applaud us for our efforts going overseas to fight for them, because that's essentially what I believe we did, is we went overseas to fight for the men and women we lost on 9/11. The more and more that I hang out with firemen, I absolutely adore what you guys do. You guys are amazing people. You really are. Because I'm not running into a damn blazing building, I can promise you that.
Well, I would say that the feeling is probably more mutual on our end, that we're in awe of, you know, your commitment to national security and what you folks do for us.
You know, it's a team effort, right? So we all support each other. We got the privilege to go to the Rock, which is the recruit training center for firefighters in New York. To be able to see it and kind of get a taste of it while they're doing it, it's really cool. It's pretty intense, and they do a whole lot. And it's, like I said, there's history everywhere in New York, including that training center. And so they're adamant about making sure that every single person that comes through there sees the history, knows the stories, and then understands what they really have to go through the rigorous training to become an FDNY. Well, our good friend Liam Flaherty asked the night before if I wanted to speak to the probies. I said, sure, I'm in. He made it happen.
We're going to have a little talk from a very good friend of the fire department, Ryan Parrott from Dallas, Texas. So please give him your undivided attention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I love it. It's like military.
Even though they were motivated, I wanted to inspire them and encourage them to make sure that every single recruit there made it through the program and became an amazing or an exceptional firefighter.
Every time you see an American flag, there should be pride in your heart. Every time you see that patch that says FDNY, there should be pride in your heart. You're going to be tasked to do things that you never thought possible, and then you will prove to yourself that you can go far beyond what you thought you could.
We got to visit a lot of different places. We visited firehouses, the Rock Training Center, but in the back of my mind, it was always that we got to see Ground Zero. I wanted to go right down. I wanted to see everything. As we got closer and closer to going to Ground Zero, the emotions started pouring in. You're walking in downtown, and then all of a sudden there's this giant hole within the buildings. And you know, you have this beautiful Freedom Tower, but then you have this giant hole with these two squares that are cut into the ground. And the first thing I thought was, you know, wow, this is a giant graveyard. And it's become a picture-taking kind of hangout area. I don't know, for some reason I feel like it deserves more. We had an opportunity to go to the Tribute Center to understand all the events that transpired, start to finish. It was under the direction of Lee I. Alpe. He was the co-founder of the Memorial Tribute Center. He's very well known. He's an incredible man.
Out of 2,749 people that were murdered here, there's only 174 whole bodies. That's it, 174.
We got to walk through the Tribute Center with him to understand all that happened. Most people don't know exactly what happened. And so that's his job and his mission, is to make sure that every single person he knows and touches, this is what transpired that day.
We do tours every day. They're all volunteers. We've trained over 800. Who better to tell them about what happened here than those that lived it? We have a guide who will tell the story of watching from the South Tower, looking at the North Tower, eye level, before the South Tower was hit, where a guy comes to the window, glasses all out, heavy smoke behind him. A woman appears near him. They speak, and only the good Lord knows what they said to each other, right? Quick, bump, to the point. He puts his arm out like that. She locks her arm into his. Close your eyes. The two of them make a step. It's quicker. And God's willing, they kept their eyes closed. And then it's over. In a matter of a few seconds. Boom. Done.
It's an emotional roller coaster the entire time. It's horrible to hear what all went down. But the hardest part for me was standing right next to this shadow box with some bunker gear in it, which belonged to his son that he lost on 9/11.
And all these machines that you see, the cranes and those grapplers and all that, was the only time I've ever seen it in the whole recovery effort. They shut everything down when Lee walked in there when they would pull his son out. just because all those construction workers had so much respect for him for being there every day. It was amazing.
I had no idea this was Squad 288.
Huh?
I didn't know this was Squad 288.
Yeah.
That's your good buddy right here, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a long time for Johnny to really open up about what had actually transpired that day. You know, every firefighter at 9/11 saw it differently. What I do understand is, Johnny Walters was off that day, but like every other firefighter in the city and the surrounding cities, they were called in, so they all ran to the scene to see what they could do to help. Johnny was at Squad 288 that day, which lost 19 members of their firehouse. That was the biggest loss of life in the fire community. So Johnny carries around a whole lot of weight, and there's something there's a piece of him that he'll never get back. Now everything that happened that day has become the DNA of New York. It's all part of the city. People live their lives a little differently. The skyline looks a lot different. But to really hear all the stories from each firefighter as to what they saw through their eyes that day, and then the 6 months, 9 months they worked on the pile afterwards, and how they somewhat assimilated back into society, which today, there's a little piece of every one of them that's not here anymore.